and it's going to be very, very important that everybody comes out to vote. I think people need to send their message. If not, you do not matter.
Tonight, as Election Day gets closer, calls to get out and vote get louder. Boys with braids, a pair of Regina brothers, struggle to keep true to the way our men wore their hair.
I'm still a bit scared for my safety.
And a double slaying in Saskatchewan has a community on edge. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. Well, the federal election is well underway, and two Mi'kmaq candidates are running in the same riding. That includes two of the province's larger Mi'kmaq communities. Angel Moore has that story.
This is Sydney, Victoria, the federal riding at the northern part of Unama'ki, known in English as Cape Breton. Sydney, Victoria is home to two of the larger Mi'kmaq communities, Membertou and Eskasoni. Both communities have candidates running in this fall's snap election. New Democrat Jeff Ward is the general manager of the Membertou Heritage Park. He has 10 years of First Nations policing and a lifetime of sharing Mi'kmaq teachings and knowledge. Ward says he will represent everyone.
I'm not running as a Mi'kmaq candidate. I'm running because I want to be. I'm not running because I want to be a Mi'kmaq MP. I want to run because I want to be the MP for Cape Breton, for Unama'ki Cape Breton.
Liberal Jaime Baptiste of Eskasoni First Nation made history in the last election. He was the first Mi'kmaq elected to the House of Commons. In an interview with the CBC last week, Baptiste said, "If we split the Mi'kmaq vote and the Conservatives get in, he's going to have to explain to the Mi'kmaq Nation why he decided that he wanted to be the Mi'kmaq MP as opposed to me." Baptiste did not respond to multiple interview requests. Ward had this response.
To me, I'm very disappointed that that other people or anybody would resort to a fear tactic, especially a fear tactic in the Mi'kmaq community. You know, there's so much history of our people being oppressed.
The two Mi'kmaq candidates are up against Conservative Eddie Orrell. He is a former provincial MLA. He ran in the last federal election, coming a very close second to Baptiste. Orrell's campaign team said he was not available for comment. Voters will decide September 20th who they will send to Ottawa. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Jabuktuk, also known as Halifax.
The Enu Nation has sent a questionnaire to all of the candidates in the Newfoundland and Labrador ridings, as well as the federal party leaders. They want answers to issues that impact the Enu Nation, and our Daryl Stranger spoke with Grand Chief ATN Rich earlier about this.
Grand Chief, thanks for joining us. What are the main issues that impact the Enu Nation in this election?
Well, here's the thing: the election, about the federal election. I think it's very important that like as you know, as you know, that what's been happening for the last couple of months in regards to red mitigation. I think it's very important that a federal government that they really need to look into the IBA that we have with the province, NELCOR actually, and we're just really want to, as a nation, to our IBA to be followed, and because as you know, that's a legal document, and that's these are the promises that we've been made to Enu, and these are the kind of things that we've been depend on in the future generation young people.
So why did the nation want to send out a questionnaire to candidates?
Well, these are the kind of things that we need to hear out the candidates throughout to the federal election, and I think it's very important that we, as you know, that we've been shouting out through the media, and it seems like I think it's very important that these topics that need to be questioned to all the candidates across the country, and I think it's very important that our concerns towards a government in regards the the promises that we had through our IBA in regards to muskrat policy, and I think that's very important to be honored. And like I said, these are the kind of things that we're going to depend on in the future, and this is for our future generation young people.
So will this questionnaire lead to any endorsements?
I really hope so, and I think that we need to hear all the candidates what will be the response. And I think it's very important that they need to respond that in clearly, and I think it's very important this kind of topic there throughout the country, this these federal elections.
So, Grand Chief, how has the Liberal government ignored the Human Rights Commission report that was recently released?
Well, here's the thing. This is the third report was released back in the first part of August, and here's the other thing. The first report was released back in 1993, and there's a lot of things. There's a lot of gaps, and a lot of gaps on that report, and I think it's very important that government need to closely working on that recommendations that has been on that Human Rights Commission report, and I think that's very important. And they need to take a really serious look at the report, and I think they need to fill out those gaps there has been recommended on that report.
All right, Grand Chief, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you for taking a few minutes to speak with us today.
Thank you very much, and no problem. Anytime, and if you guys anytime want to speak with me, I'm always open. Thank you very much.
The Manitoba Métis Federation has joined other Indigenous organizations, laying out what they want to see from the federal parties and ultimately what they want to see from the next federal government. With more, here's Daryl Stranger.
15 key items have been identified by the Manitoba Métis Federation. They include the Métis Nation, social development, and economic participation. Part of the ask by the MMF is enacting the modern-day treaty they signed with the federal government this past summer. The MMF estimates the cost of governance to be at least $30 million a year. MMF President David Chartrand says he will stand behind any government that supports the Métis Nation.
And I've been in politics a long time, and people say, well, David, you're just liberal. No, I'm not. I supported Brian Mulroney. I'll say it publicly. Joe Clark. So those are people that actually had a lot of respect for the Métis people, as given as our mandate as a Métis government. So when you look at it, Chrétien, I wasn't very close to John Chrétien, but I was close to Paul Martin for one reason alone, because he supported the Métis Nation. And so does Trudeau. And he showed this by putting resources.
The MMF wants to be included in the First Nations and Inuit Health Branch and see a 10-year, $50 million agreement to address Métis homelessness. The MMF also highlighted reparations for land claims, which they believe should be $1 billion or more spread out over 20 years. Chartrand says Indigenous people need to vote so their voices can be heard.
Indigenous people matter, and it's going to be very, very important that everybody comes out to vote. I think people need to send their message. If not, you do not matter.
Daryl Stranger, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
The election is now less than 2 weeks away, and a recent poll found a majority of Canadians believe reconciliation with Indigenous peoples is an important consideration in how they plan to vote. For more on this, we're joined by Migma lawyer Pam Palmater. Pam, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me.
It's great news that a majority of Canadians say reconciliation with Indigenous peoples is a priority for them, but how much of a priority do you think it is for the leaders of the federal parties?
Well, that's a good question, because I actually think there's a huge disconnect. If the majority of Canadians are saying reconciliation is going to determine how they vote, but then you have the parties not even mentioning Indigenous peoples in the recent Quebec debate, what does that say about the disconnect between all of these party leaders and Indigenous peoples? And to me, that causes some concern.
Well, we're, like you say, more than 3 weeks into this election, and I think I know the answer here on whether you feel like Indigenous issues have been addressed enough, but what are we not hearing about?
Well, we're not hearing about genocide. The National Inquiry into Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women and Girls found Canada guilty of not just historic genocide, but ongoing genocide. And that ties to murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls. It ties directly to residential schools. It ties to systemic racism in policing and healthcare, the lack of water, housing, education. It's all a package together. And you don't see them dealing with it in a comprehensive way. You see them basically having headline platforms. Here's what we promise on water, and they each compete to see who does better on water, instead of really looking at the issue strategically or in a holistic way.
We saw Indigenous people come out in record numbers in 2015 to back the Liberals or push Stephen Harper out, maybe. I haven't noticed the same rock the vote types of campaigns this time around. Do you think Indigenous people are feeling motivated to get out the vote this time?
Well, I think Indigenous peoples are pretty frustrated that, they came out in those record numbers based on certain promises, that they would respect our right to determine what happens on our lands, the National Inquiry, water, dealing with funding and all of those things. And all of those promises weren't kept in their fulsome form during that time. So you saw in the next election, Trudeau only got a minority, but also that Indigenous voting was way down. And I think that's a sign. Now, this election is going to be a little bit different. Yes, there's some disappointment that they haven't kept up with all of their promises, but then there's also the looming threat of the Conservatives, who doesn't have a plan for murdered and missing, for TRC, to address racism, and in fact is going to be attacking the Canadian Human Rights Act and getting rid of some of the human rights protections. So it's a little bit of a different consideration. You might be frustrated that you didn't get promises, but oh no, you don't want a Harper-type regime to come back in, so maybe you would vote. And I see a really varied response from Indigenous peoples on what they plan to do on Election Day.
Well, interesting couple weeks still to go here, less than two. Pam, you're going to be joining us on election night for a special coverage here on APTN on September 20th. Looking forward to it. Thanks so much for your time here today.
Thanks, Dennis. I can't wait.
We want to hear what you're thinking about this federal election campaign. Here's how you can get in touch with us. You can send your emails to news@aptn.ca or leave a comment on aptnnews.ca. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Follow APTN News to join the conversations and see our latest stories. Time to step aside now for a quick break, but first a look at a story we're working on.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Moritz-Jacobs in Sambake, Yellowknife. The countdown is on. There's less than 2 weeks now until voting day for a federal election. And like the Yukon and Nunavut, the Northwest Territories will only select one person to represent them as their member of parliament. This week, APTN will chat with the 5 candidates promising to meet the needs of the nearly 45,000 residents, half of those being Indigenous. We'll see how the platforms stack up on important issues such as reconciliation, Indigenous governance, housing and homelessness, education, energy and climate, and more. That's coming up soon on APTN National News.
Welcome back to southern Alberta now, where a 21-year-old Tyree Kootenay of the Stoney Nakoda Nation has been charged with second-degree murder in the death of a 6-month-old infant. RCMP discovered the body during a wellness check on August 25th. An investigation determined the cause of death was a homicide. Kootenay faces additional charges of assault causing bodily harm and choking with intent from a separate incident involving a 24-year-old woman. He was remanded into custody following a judicial hearing and will be appearing in Cochrane Provincial Court on October 5th. 2 members of the James Smith Cree Nation in Saskatchewan are dead, and one is in hospital after a shooting in the community Sunday evening. A 37-year-old man and a 28-year-old woman were killed after an altercation. A 44-year-old man was taken to the hospital with serious injuries. RCMP charged 33-year-old Sean Mustos Tuesday afternoon. The shooting has residents shaken up.
It's the toughest to swallow out of everything that I went through and this whole community went through. Yeah, I'm still a bit scared for my safety.
Saskatchewan RCMP say Mustos has been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, a 1 count of attempted murder, and a firearms offense. To the pandemic now, and Quebec is bringing down the hammer on unvaccinated workers in the health and social services sector. The province announcing today full vaccination against COVID-19 will be mandatory by October 15th, and there will be penalties for those who do not comply.
Our health network is already under a lot of pressure, particularly in the Montreal region. We cannot therefore accept that workers put vulnerable people at risk. This is a measure for employees and patients. The healthcare network must be safe, and the day after dysentery fall into force, unvaccinated employees will be suspended without pay.
The measure impacts workers both in the public and private sector, and anyone who wants to visit a patient in hospital must show their vaccine passport to enter. Well, as you may know, our Melissa Ridgen will be the first Indigenous person to ever help moderate a federal leaders debate this Thursday, and she's going to be wearing something special for the occasion. That story's still to come. Stay with us.
Live from Gatineau. Don't miss the federal leaders debate. Trudeau, O'Toole, Blanchette, Singh, Paul. The party leaders face off about Canada and its future. The federal leaders debate. Commercial free. Thursday, September 9.
Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. This one's of a lone tree making a go of it near the shore of Box Lake near Nakusp, British Columbia. This photo was sent to us by our viewer Lori Bunting. Keep those great photos coming. And you can keep them coming by sending your photo to share@aptn.ca for the chance to be featured as our next photo of the day. Well, let's take a look at Wednesday's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, 23 and sunny for Halifax, 22 in Charlottetown, 10 in Nain with rain, 17 in showers for Happy Valley, Goose Bay. Showers and 24 for Montreal and Quebec City, 18 with rain for Sault Ste. Marie and North Bay. 19 with showers in Thunder Bay, rain, and 17 in Sioux Lookout. Showers and 14 in Churchill, 21 in the Pas, 21 for Winnipeg, 23 in Brandon and Dauphin. Sunny and 24 for Regina, 1 degree warmer in Saskatoon. 18 for Uranium City and Stony Rapids. Picking back up in northern Alberta, 19 in High Level, 24 for Fort McMurray. 29 in Medicine Hat and Lethbridge, showers, and 25 in Edmonton. Rain and 23 for Vancouver and Victoria. 17 in Prince George with showers, 16 and rain in Smithers. Sunny and 16 for Old Crow, rain and 16 in Whitehorse. 13 in Yellowknife, 15 in Norman Wells. Plus 4 with rain in Sax Harbor, 12 in Pawlatuck. 6 for Chesterfield and Whale Cove with rain. Minus 4 and snow in Resolute, minus 1 in Arctic Bay. Well, with school starting up this week across Canada, it will mean another year of education for 2 brothers from Saskatchewan on the significance of wearing their hair in braids. CTV's Kaylin Wibbs has their story.
Okay, my boys, put your seatbelts on, time to go.
Another year of school means a new year of learning.
But for Anthony and Alfred Owatch, it also means a year of them teaching their classmates understanding.
In kindergarten, they didn't know First Nation people very well, and they keep calling me a girl because I had long hair, and they probably never saw boys with long hair.
The boys say the hurtful words of others have diminished over the years, but not completely, and they've taken it upon themselves to use it as an opportunity to let others know the cultural significance of the braid. But it can be difficult.
I tell them it's not good to tell people you're a girl. So I'm trying to tell them I'm a First Nation, but they keep telling me I'm a girl. So I'm trying to help them that I'm a First Nation.
Their father, Brady Owatch, says it all comes down to education, both at the school level and at home.
Teaching your kids, it's okay to be different. It's okay for them to be proud of their culture. That's one thing I teach my kids about is be proud of who you are.
Braiding their hair, Owatch uses the time to teach them the importance of why they wear the braids, which is part of the knowledge they use to help bring understanding to their school.
One of their hairs is very easy to break, but when you gather them, when you braid their hair together, it's like a family. It's all your family all together. You braid all your family together, and as a family, you're that strong.
Owatch teaches his kids respect, a message he passed along to the parents and teachers at the school on Carry the Kettle First Nation where he is chief. He wants his boys and others to be role models and rise above it, as kids will do as they do, and he encourages them to be more understanding and recognizing of other cultures.
It's okay to have long hair. It doesn't matter if you're a girl or not. You can grow your hair, you can cut your hair, you can do whatever you want with your hair.
Regina Catholic School says bullying is not tolerated in any of its schools, and there's policies in place to address any bullying. They also say St. Catherine Community School uses programming related to the 7 sacred teachings and supports this sort of education. Kaylin Wibb, CTV News, Regina.
Great story. Well, our host, Melissa Ridgen, will be the first Indigenous person to take place in the federal debate coming up this Thursday. Take part, that is. And she'll be representing the Métis community, not just through her heritage, but also through her clothing. Adrienne Dandino is the Métis Anishinaabe designer behind the Anne Molaire clothing. She has taken embroidered designs from her Métis ancestors and used them to create sustainable jackets and activewear. Our host Melissa will scout the Molaire blazer this upcoming Thursday in the federal debate from Ottawa. You can check out the full story on our newscast this Thursday. Dandino says she's honored to be represented on a national level.
I think as an artist, designer, I'm always so humbled when people want to wear my pieces because it is an expression of me, of my designs, of my, what's going through my head. And so, of course, we're very vulnerable in somebody saying, yes, I like it, I don't like it. But I definitely was 100% honored because I think it's the perfect piece because it's so classic, but yet the floral detail is, you've never seen that before. And it's so original. So I think, I think it was a perfect fit for her event.
Looks great. Can't wait to hear more about it and to see Melissa wearing that at the Leaders Debate. That is all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Tuesday. For news anytime, you can visit our website, aptnnews.ca. Coming up next, an encore presentation of Face to Face. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great night.